Can I call you Rose? 'Cause you're sweet like a flower in bloom. Can I call you Rose? Can I call you Rose? 'Cause your fragrance takes over the room. Can I call you?
Welcome to Shakespeare and Mingle.
Thank you for joining us.
Okay. My name is Tamika Hall. I'm the co-author of Black Mixcellence, a comprehensive guide to Black mixology, which I co-wrote with Colin Asari Apia. By day, I'm the senior manager of community programming at a very large global sports brand. But my real passion and sort of bread and butter is with writing, so I like to say that I'm an author first.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, congratulations on your book.
Thank you. Very much a labor of love.
Oh,
that's good to hear.
Tell me, if you were to host a dinner party, which 3 iconic mixologists would you invite?
Ooh.
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I have to have Tiffany there.
Yes.
Because Tiffany not only is a clutch mixologist, but we're Cancer spirits one and the same. And so when I first talked to her, it was supposed to be like an introductory conversation, and it turned into like a 3.5 hour just like chat fest. And so we've been very cool ever since. And so she would have to be there, and maybe not even to make drinks, to tell other people what to do to make the drinks.
Right.
But just her being present, I think, is super important. Of course, Colin will have to be there.
Yes.
Because he too is the overseer of beverages.
Mm-hmm.
And so having him there obviously would be top tier. And then I think I would reach back into the archives. You didn't say that they were dead or alive. You just said, what I have. So I would definitely have Tom Bullock.
Oh, okay.
Because I think that I read some of the recipes and I was like, they're making cocktails with like airplane fuel. Like, what was that like? And I know back then, like, people were drinking those kinds of things and it wasn't considered hazardous.
Right.
And it was probably in such small portions that it probably wasn't harmful. And so just curious to know, like, about those ingredients, mixing them together. How did you even figure to put airplane fuel in your cocktails? Was it for the, for the buzz, or was it for the flavor?
Wow,
like, I'm really curious. And so I would bring him. And just as a +1, Bertie Brown will have to be there too.
Okay. So you could time travel. What era would you be in?
I'm definitely going to Prohibition.
Okay.
Because I feel like speakeasies and all of that, they're a vibe now. So just imagine when they had to be that way.
Right.
Total vibe. So I would have to be, I'm definitely going to Prohibition era.
I think I would be too nervous.
Why? No.
I'm not a rule breaker.
Oh, well, see, we don't know about them rules. If there's anything we're going to break, aside from glasses, it's going to be the rules. Don't worry, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. I'll be like, come on.
I got one more for you. If you ever had made a cocktail that just went so wrong, it went left real quick.
No, true story. So a friend of mine gifted me a bottle of Beluga vodka, which is a top tier vodka.
Yeah.
I think it's like 7 times distilled or something, whatever it is. Long story short, I was super excited. The bottle was pretty, and it came with the little shot glasses with the whale on it.
Oh, okay.
So I called her actually, and I was like, "Oh my God, Pam!" I was like, "I made the best sangria with the Beluga vodka that you sent me." She basically was like, "You did what?" She was mortified. She was like, first of all, and she like read me the riot act about vodka, the distillation, how many times. And she was like, that does not belong in a sangria. And I was like, and I soaked the fruits first. And she was like, absolutely not. I was like, oh. She was like, where is it now? And I was like, in the fridge. And she was like, well, you might as well just pour it out. And I was like, because I really used like, I used like 3/4 of the bottle.
Goodness.
And I don't know if you've ever tasted Beluga, but it's not like, it's very, I don't want to say it's soft. That's the wrong word, but it's not giving a vodka taste.
Okay. Okay.
So
I have to
me,
taste
I
it.
kept putting it in because I couldn't taste it. Like I
Taste
was
it,
like, I need to
right.
taste the vodka, but that's me thinking with my like gross absolute brain. Sorry, absolute. But you know you can taste it in the drink, taste a little
Yeah,
medicine-y.
I
So
got you. Yeah.
and this was early before I was a little bit my palate was a little bit
Little bit,
better
yeah,
to
yeah.
spirits.
Give yourself some grace.
So I have to give myself some grace because I really had no idea what I was doing. But
it's your own
she,
special recipe.
Yeah.
Don't knock it too hard.
it was not. It
We've
was
all been
not
there.
good. One glass and you were like finished. It was bad. It was
Oh,
bad.
man.
That one's been done.
Don't ask me to
and
make
gone.
sangria because it's not happening.
Tamika is not allowed to make the sangria.
No, I can't bring it to the. I can't bring it to the barbecue.
Oh man,
That's our cookout.
That's our cookout.
Sorry.
Yeah.
How did you become introduced to the world of mixology?
So I used to do branded content for spirits brands and cocktail brands. I used to write for Maker's Mark. I wrote for Bacardi a little bit, and so that's really where I started to do a lot of like writing about cocktails and stuff. And so during the pandemic, an ex-friend of mine who is also an author, she was like, hey, you know, there's a project. I really feel like you'd be good for it. And so they pitched me the book. And originally the book was supposed to be like, I don't know if you remember Time Out New York. And there was a section like in the magazine and it was like, bartenders, tell us your best bar story. And like bartenders would indulge in like some weird story that happened in the bar. And so what I started finding, but let me rewind, they wanted it to feature Black mixologists.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, that's cool. But then I was also like, that's a little lame because all you're going to do is ask this question and then you're going to have the recipe. Like for me, there was no like substance to it. Like, why would I want to read that? I personally wouldn't want to read that. So why would anybody else want to read it? Like, that's how you kind of have to look at content that you create in that regard. So I was like, I have an idea. Why don't we add like history to it? And then, you know, I started inserting some ideas. And then, long story short, basically, I was really just like, it needs to be something that people want to read. Yeah. So they were like, okay, so you rewrite the pitch based on how you think the book, like, what do you think is the idea?
Great. Okay.
So then that's what I did. And that's how we came up with Black Mixcellence. And
Wonderful.
I also noticed that there was a common thread with all the mixologists that I interviewed. Maybe because they were Black. Right. Their story of my best bartender story sometimes wasn't as novel as people would think it would be. And so a common thread was a very like emotional story or something that meant something to them. And so for me, that's not something that you position as being novel. Like that's really where you take storytelling and you use it to elevate a platform. And so while it wasn't included in the book, all of the mixologists that had cocktails in there, they all have like an interview, a whole interview segment. But because we did it during the pandemic, trying to photograph everyone, it was difficult because we couldn't travel. Like we were literally doing this in the meat and potatoes of pandemic. And so we were able to hire a food photographer to shoot the cocktails, but we couldn't fly someone out to shoot and really do justice the mixologists with like a portrait, because that's really what should have accompanied their stories. And so we ended up leaving, which I didn't want to do, but we left the interviews out and just went with some of the history stories and the cocktails and their featured cocktails.
Wow, I just love how you turned it all around though in the beginning. Said, no, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
It just felt so like, let's just, and I was like, if this is not, and I didn't want to say it, but it felt like such a money grab to me because people are always going to gravitate towards quote unquote what they would call Black culture. So, oh my gosh, there's Black mixologists in the book. Let's buy that.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, if we're not going to tell stories and do something else around it, I think it's very silly. But in hindsight, that was just sort of like, that should have been a flag for me because that just gave some insight into how the publisher was going to move moving forward. And so when I say labor of love, I really mean that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, I get it. I get it.
I really thought that that was an integral piece to the storytelling, because without, you know, the mixologist, you don't have these cocktails. And a lot of people ask about them and want to know who they are. And, you know, luckily I'm able to put them in places when I can, like when events are happening and so on and so forth.
Can I hear more about your stories? Is there a challenge that you want to highlight specifically as a Black woman that you've encountered in the spirits industry? Ooh. I know it's a heavy one.
That's a loaded question.
Yeah.
So I think for me, so when writing branded content about certain spirits, I always said, wow, there's a lot of white people like in this industry. And I always wondered where, if we were in barbacks, like where are we in that space, right? But it was just a very, 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 very segregated space. And I knew there had to be a place for us in the space. But when you're in the workspace like that, like those are questions that you kind of don't ask. Like, hey guys, where are the Black people at? Yeah, and it was a lot of events that I went to. I was the only, I was asked if I was the help. Can you get me a drink kind of thing? Like, are you serving? And I was like, no, I'm here attending the event like you. You know, and there was a lot of that. And then even like going into some of the restaurants to do like the reviews on the food, like they couldn't believe, they were like, it's her. Like, and you have to think, this was like in 2012, 13, 14. So it was still, you know, fairly late in the game, but there really just wasn't a presence for us in that space still. A lot of the bartenders were doing their thing, but you really just had to go find and see where they were at. And then I started realizing that even in doing research for this book, I'm not going to say where I looked for my bartenders, but I went back into history, some of these competitions and some places where people told me to look, and I was like, this ain't it, y'all.
Right.
So I think what piqued my interest and really cracked the code was VinePair did a list of top Black mixologists, I think in like 2019 or 2020. And I was like, oh, snap. So I'm looking in the book, and that's where I started finding everyone. I was like, Chico.
Yes.
Pro tip.
And I started going down the list and looking for people. And even like the publisher at the time was like, okay, but how famous are they? And I was like, bro, it doesn't matter. I'm like, these are the people that are making shit happen in the industry right now. And these are the people that we need to consider like talking to for this book. There's a guy, he like mixes cocktails in a bathtub. You ever seen him? He's a Black guy. He mixes cocktails in a tub.
I haven't seen him in the bathtub.
They were like, you should talk to him. I was like, I'm gonna keep it a buck. I don't want to talk to him, bro. Like, I feel like he's not bringing anything. I was just like, ew.
No, well, that's what I mean.
I don't know if it's a bathtub, but it was like sink. It's like cooler. It's all this weird stuff, and I was just like, that's not the vibe. That's not the vibe.
It wasn't anything of substance. Okay.
No, and I'm like, people like that, but I don't think we don't gravitate towards that type of stuff. Like, if we're gonna read some shit, like, it needs to be something we need to read.
Yeah.
I don't want to make cocktails in the cooler or the sink for that matter. Sorry.
Well, Black Mixcellence has done its job in celebrating diversity and being inclusive, absolutely highlighting our culture. Where do you see that the industry has room to grow?
We definitely need more storytellers. I think we as a culture are very dependent on, and I don't want to say dependent like we can't tell our own stories, but I think us getting into the industry and us being able to tell our story has always been historically difficult.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people that don't look like us end up telling our story or trying to tell our story. And I think we need to take more ownership of that and start telling our own stories. And whether it's, I know we don't want to self-publish and we want to be recognized by these big publishing houses. But if it is that we have to self-publish so that we can tell our own story, then unfortunately or fortunately, that's what we need to do. The one thing I will say is that after Black Mixcellence, a lot of the mixologists that were featured are now working on their own projects. So for me,
that was my next question. You getting ahead of me? Hold on.
Sorry.
How has Black Mixcellence created opportunity?
So I think it gave a lot of the mixologists the confidence to step out and want to tell their story.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even about me, like people wanting to talk to me that I wrote the book. That's cool. But I would rather you find a mixologist in the book and you ask them to do an interview because you saw their cocktail in the book, or you ask them to, come and be a guest speaker in your culinary class because you saw, they made a cocktail and maybe they used a combination of ingredients or some kind of tool or skill that you want them to explain firsthand. Like, I would rather see them using the platform or the book as a springboard into something else versus me talking about the book and, just highlighting them. So I think for me, like, that was really my mindset when writing the book. And I'm just happy to see them all taking the initiative. Like Jalen Little just wrote a book. Camille Wilson just wrote a book. I know someone else, I can't say because it's a secret, is also putting together a book. But
Come on, girl.
but just knowing. Look, she said it's just us, and I was like, they will kill me.
That's all right.
But just knowing that that's what's happening, like the book has done its job. So regardless of the outcome of the book or whatever the case, like it's doing exactly what it needs to do.
Look how God's hand was all in that because, someone came to you and you were like, oh, let's do it this way. And now look at the vehicle you've given to everyone else around you. That's like such a blessing, It's such a blessing.
That's what keeps me full. Yeah. That's what keeps me full about this project. Otherwise, I probably would feel different. But really, it's every time I start to doubt, I hear another story of someone else doing something and I'm like, okay, no, you did the right thing. And so I have to really just settle in that and encourage people and open as many doors as I can.
Exactly. That's
as we continue to move through this thing, because if we don't tell our stories, people are definitely going to tell it. And we want to keep that. Yeah. We were denied that for so long. And so, it's time for us to really start taking our stories into our own hands and putting them out there for other people to read, and even giving them a place to have a home, to be documented, because we don't have that either.
Space. Absolutely. It sounds like this is the work that you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Yep. Here for it. They're going to be sick of me. Oh, God, here she comes.
No,
not us. Not us.
Not us at all.
So you've spoken a lot about, the unique cultural elements that you've used in recipes. Can you give us a cocktail that is fresh on your mind? And what is the story behind it?
From that terrible sangria. The thing, I haven't self-created a cocktail. But I will say that I enjoy cocktails that have stories.
Yeah.
And so I think that's another reason why Tiffany and I sort of sing very well, because she's like master storyteller. And everything she makes, there's a rhyme, there's a reason, there's a story, there's a connection. And so I'm here for cocktails and beverages, even recipes that tell stories. It's just another way for us to express sort of like a form of art. And so if your cocktail can tell a story and it tastes good, I'm here for it.
Black Mixcellence has a strong focus on education in the community, right? Yes. What initiatives, what programs do you see for the future? What's going on?
So Colin is definitely hell-bent on writing another book. I know he told y'all. Okay. We are really just trying to navigate the space of how we want to do it. And really just start carving out the time to get it done. I mean, he's done so many things that are inaugural. Yeah. Ajabu for one of them. Yes. the fact that he goes back and he's teaching and mentorship and entrepreneurship, because people that he's teaching the skill are opening bars and restaurants and, you know, really learning how to make a living for their family. So he's really just like someone who is creating space for people to flourish. I feel like I want him to really think about what he would want to put in a book. He also has Letters to a Young Bartender, which I think is a very impactful. I don't know if you've ever seen it at Tale. I'm sure you have. But it's a whole event at Tales where bartenders write letters sort of to their younger selves. And I think people really don't give mixology or bartending, however you want to, you know, name it.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're doing here too. We asked that very question of him. What would he tell his younger self? Because that's really important to us here at Shake, Stir, and Mingle. We love to hear about the cocktail, but we definitely want to hear about you and your journey. You know what I mean? So we always want to reflect backwards and say, gosh, how did I feel? And what would I tell myself then? Because there's another younger person out there that's listening, and that we just want to show them the journey. You know what I mean?
I think a lot of people didn't, when they became bartenders, it was really often looked at as a job when you couldn't do anything else.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't do this? Okay, so you need to go be a bartender. Or people would say, well, let me just go be a bartender. Not realizing that there's so much power in the job, the field, the choice. You are a people person. You are a server. We've been mandated service workers for years. And so, you know, that's important. Like, we are needed. And I think shining light on that part and just potentially giving someone hope where they can say, you know what, I want to be a bartender. Like, imagine a kid writing that in 4th grade. The teacher's going to call their parents, be like, do you know your kid wants to be a bartender? Yeah. And, like, you know, really, like, giving them advice to steer away from it. But why can't that be something that they want to do?
Yeah.
Like, it should be respected and revered as such. And so I think that's something, too, that came from talking to all the mixologists and bartenders and even joining the community of bartenders that I know. So my first, like, in-person experience really, like, for a couple of days was in D.C., where I worked with Tara and Capri.
Okay.
And all the bomb mixologists. Glendon, everybody who's cool and this shit. Like, we were together for, like, 3 or 4 days during Juneteenth. And I was really just like, this is crazy, because y'all really gonna have me out here like this for 4 days after, like, the first day. Their community and the camaraderie is so welcoming and just, it can make anyone feel like they can do it. And it's encouraging, it's uplifting, it's motivating, it's inspiring. And so I think that's really what I want to start showcasing next. Like, it's not just something to do if you can't do anything else. This is really a profession. And you have to be good at what you do.
You know, with Black Mixcellence and the platform that you all are building, you're showing people who wouldn't possibly ordinarily know anything about the spirits industry or their way to it, the path to it. You're showing them accessibility and just how to make a way.
If one person takes the match and says, you know what, I'm going to do this, then you know you've done your job.
Yeah.
Because then they're going to take that match and someone else is going to get it, and it's just going to continue. It's really just going to continue.
No, we're just so excited to have spoken with you, because your book, everything that you guys have put together is just something just to be so proud of.
And thank you so much.
When, like, we've been conversing on IG and so forth, and I had the pleasure of, like, seeing you guys in the hallways or somewhere, you know, but I was just so thankful to get you on in this community so we can also share. You know what I mean? And they want to hear from you too, girl.
Yeah.
So I've done a few podcasts. Like, a lot of people will ask, and I'm just like, yeah. And then some people, I started saying no. Like, early on, I was so gung-ho about. And then when you start looking to see what people are really about, you're just like, I don't know if that's a place for me.
Right.
Right? And I think that's another part of it too. It's really knowing where to put your story and put your commentary and even give your time, because everyone doesn't deserve it in this capacity.
Well, thank
and
you.
So for me, It's being selective about, okay, I don't want to do that podcast. I'm like, but oh, hell yeah, I'm going to talk to Shakespeare Mingle. Yeah. Because some people be like, oh, all you have to do, all we need is 10 minutes. And I'm like, well, that's 10 minutes I don't have. And it's not even like it's because it's just not a fit. Like, it's just not a fit.
No, we're very appreciative of that because in our hearts, you know, we're entrepreneurs. She's working in the birth field. We're also educators. So it's really important for us to just share these like bits of wisdom. You know what I mean? Because it definitely will flourish in time.
We appreciate you so much for embracing our story and giving us a space in your space.
When you've done well and another has benefited by it, why look like a fool? Do you look for a third thing on top? Credit for the good deed? Or a favor in return? Marcus Aurelius.